data validation. How we can validate the data in our ASP.NET MVC application here. So data validation help us to ensure that the received data is correct and valid. And data should be validated at client side as well as on server side so that we can prevent the unwanted attack. So guys, here if you are talking about the validation, so as a best practice, you should always apply the client side as well as server side validation. So benefit of client side validation are what the website we are developing. Actually, we develop the website for our end user. So generally, end user don't have the the technical details. It doesn't know the IT things. So for that user to provide the rich experience, we apply the client side validation. Let's say if you have a user registration page. So on the user registration page, if you are expecting a username having the 4 characters with a special characters and anything else, so those messages we can show on the client side at the time of entering the value. As soon as the user will enter the correct value, the error message will disappear. So in this way the user is having the confidence like whatever he is entering, like she is entering, it is perfect, it is as per the requirement. Even we are also saving the round trip on the server, because every time you don't need to post your data on the server side to validate the input. Only on the client side we are validating all the things here. But sometimes it might be the case like the JavaScript is disabled in the browser, or like sometimes because of network bandwidth, your page is not entered properly in the browser, but your form is looking to the end user, so user is entering the value clicking on the login button. So intentionally he has not disabled the JavaScript and he is not using any tool, but somehow because of some network issue, the page is not loaded correctly, but the form is visible to the user and submitting the value. It might be the case user is using the third-party tools like Fiddler, he or she might use on any other tool. So from there, generally we disable the JavaScript. So in that case, we should have a way to validate the user input on the server side. So server sides are mandatory because the server side validation prevent us to do any unnecessary manipulation, or you can say the unexpected manipulation on our database. So before going to do the processing on the user input, make sure you are going to validate the server side validation. When you are sure like everything is working fine on the server side, then write the code for client side validation. This is a practice you have to follow. I hope it makes sense. So server side validation objective is to protect your data from dirty input, and we can apply the server side validation using 2 methods like explicit model validation. We can say it is traditional approach because if you remember the window application element, in the window application element we use the traditional approach if else statement we use there for validating the user input. Then we have data annotation. In MVC we don't have the validation control. In place of validation control we have data annotation attribute. So we have required attribute, we have regular expression, compare. So all these attributes we can use for validating the user input on the server side as we use the data validation control in ASP.NET Web. So let's see how we can use the server side validation. Then I will tell you about the client side. So client side we can apply using the JavaScript library like jQuery, Angular, or like any other framework. Creating form using tag helpers. So let's see how we can create our HTML form with the help of tag helpers in ASP.NET Core. So for this one, what you need to do, you need to create a project. So let's create a new project. So let's create a ASP.NET Core web application. So this is the ASP.NET Core web application template. I'm selecting. Now define your application name. It's here, let's say forms validation. So this is my project name. And this is the location where I'm willing to store it. Now click on the create button. So now here I'm selecting the template web application MVC template. I'm selecting for creating our ASP.NET Core application. So now here let's create a user sign up page I'm willing to create. So for creating the user sign up page, first of all you need to create a model class. So let's create a model class. Define your model class name as user view model. So I'm adding here, let's say user view model is my model class name. Now define the property for the model class. Let's say it's string name. Let's add here another property. Let's say string user. I'm defining here one more property. Let's say string password. So what are the things are required to sign up a user? I'm defining all the properties over here. Now define here confirm password, and here let's add one more property. I'm adding here a property, let's say it would be here for address, a string address, and we can add here one more property, a string contact number, a string contact, and you can add a property here for boolean accepting the terms and condition, accept the terms and condition. So this way we added the various properties, and for each property we will create a form input control so that we can take the input from the user, and based upon that the user can do the sign up. So here let's create a account controller, and there we will define our action sign up. So I'm using here MVC controller empty, define the controller name as account. So our account controller has been created now. So let's define the action name as sign up, and the same sign up action linking we can do here with the help of underscore layout page. So in the underscore layout page I'm just mentioning this link so that we can navigate to this page directly. It's sign up, controller name is here account, so I mentioned here sign up as a link text, and now here we can create the view for this sign up action. So for creating the view, just do right click here, there is option here add view, and here using the template I can create the complete markup. I don't need to write anything here. So I'm just using here template create, and this create template is already having the bootstrap CSS class combination, so that our the HTML form will look like beautiful. So define here model class. So model class is user view model, and click on that button. So using scaffolding it will generate our form with the help of bootstrap classes. If you will see here, it is a form having the tag helper ASP-action. So on the sign up page, like sign up action, it will post our form data. Let me remove some extra code from here. It says sign up, and here we can mention here ASP-controller also, and define the controller name as account. Explicitly you can define the method also. Method would be here post, and it's added here a validation summary to show all the error messages in list. And here there is a text box they are creating for name, they are creating a span for showing the error messages, and it's having a text danger class. This class is available in bootstrap. So if you will see, for all the properties we are having the text boxes, but if you will see here for password it is here ASP-4. So when you are mentioning the ASP-4, so based upon the property data type, it's a string type, it will render the control here, but here we want to render here a input type password text box. So better way is here you should mention here explicitly type equal to, like type equal to password. Same way in the confirm password also you should mention type equal to password. Even the same thing you can define here for name and the username also, input type text, but here by default is a text box, so you don't need to mention that one, but for password we need to change it. Same way for address we need to change into the text area. Define here ASP-4 and define the CSS class. So the necessary changes we are doing, like which type of input control we need for that particular property, I'm mentioning here. For contact number it is fine, for checkbox it's fine, it will create a checkbox automatically. So explicitly you can also define it, it's a input type equal to checkbox we have mentioned, and button name would be here, let's say sign up. Backlist is not required, I'm removing it, and for a while I'm just commenting this entire scripts as well. So it will render here a partial view, and this partial view containing all the script files to validate the user input on the client side. So right now we are not applying the client side validation, we are just creating the form here. So this is the way all the necessary changes I have done in the generated code. Now let's run the code and see how it is looking. So it's running our application, and then check how it is showing our page using the bootstrap. So go to the sign up page and you can see I'm getting here a very good UI for my form. It's a name, username, password, confirm password, address, contact number, terms and conditions, sign up link. And so far we have not applied any validation. It's a simple sign up page. It's a simple sign up page it is showing to us. So in this way we successfully created our sign up form. And the next session we will see how we can apply the validation on the user input. Server-side validation in ASP.NET Core. So let's see how we can apply the server-side validation to validate the user input on the server side. So we already created a user sign up page. And now what are the value user will enter in all these text boxes we will validate on the server side. So what we need to do here, first of all we need to create the post method for this sign up action. So let's define this post version for this sign up action. I'm using here HTTP post. Now here we can receive all the text boxes values using the user view model class instance. So user view model class instance I'm using to receive the value. I have added the namespace. And in case of server-side validation, we can validate the user input by using two methods. The first one is here the traditional if-else statement which you can use. So first we are going to use here the traditional if-else statement to validate the user input. And the second one is here data annotation approach. So first let's understand the traditional way, then we will talk about the data annotation approach. So in the traditional way I need to write here a if statement and I will check the value for each and every property in this model class. So now let's check for each and every property in the model class we are receiving. So I'm just using here a string dot is null or empty. I'm checking here for null or empty value. So model dot name. If name is empty, it means if you will not enter any value for the name text box, so obviously here also you will get the name value as null. If it is null, then with the help of model state we can add the error explicitly into the model state. So the model state we are just adding the error corresponding to this name key. Now define the error message. Let's say please enter name. So ASP.NET Core provides us the model state, and in the model state corresponding to each and every posted form key we can add the error. So if model state is invalid, so we will not process the received data further. If model state is valid, then we will process the data further to save it into a database. So same way we need to check for others properties as well. So need to add here multiple if statement. I'm just showing it only for initial two properties, for name and username. So for name and username explicitly we are adding the error into the model state. So when you will add the error explicitly in the model state, so now before processing we need to check its validity, if it is valid or not. So model state dot is valid. If it is valid, then process it. If it is invalid, then don't process it. So here you will write the code for processing the data. So right now we are not processing it because it's not the class about the database operations, it's a class about the validation. So here what I'm doing here, I'm just redirecting it to the some other page. So redirect to action. As action I'm just using, let's say message. On the message page we will redirect. So let's define an action with the name message. So I'm just defining here a new action in the same controller with the name message. For message add a view message. And now define here a fake message on the view. Let's say you have been successfully registered. You have been successfully registered. So this message we can show here when everything is fine. Now for testing how the traditional validation technique works here, let's run the code and see it. So go to the sign up page and here I'm not entering anything. Let's click directly on the sign up button. It's coming over here. If you will check the model state initially, so you can see model state is right now valid because we have not mentioned any validation so far. That's why it is valid. Now let's execute the one by one. It's coming over here because name is null. Now check the model state. Now it is invalid because explicitly we have added the error into the model state. Same way, just check for username. So now it is invalid, so it will go back to the same page to show the error message. Let's say please enter username, please enter name. So in both the cases, by mistake I have given the same message, so it should be the username. So if you will mention the username, it will show the message as username, not the name. In the both the cases it's username. If we will run it again, it will show us the proper message, the please enter name for name and please enter username for the username. It will show to us. And sign up and click over here and do continue to check the message. So properly message we are getting here, please enter name, please enter username. This is the way how it is showing the message. So this is the traditional way to validate the user input on the server side. But in ASP.NET Core there is a better way also to validate these properties. So the second approach is here, data annotation attribute. So instead of using this way, I can comment all this if statement. So now let's define the data annotation attribute at this class level. So for using the data annotation attribute, need to add a namespace system dot component model, then data annotation. This is the namespace need to add. After this, I can use the attribute available in this namespace. It is required. In the required, let's define error message. What error message you want to show when you are making the name as required. Let's say please enter name. This is the message I'm just showing for the name. Same way I can show for username, password, confirm password, address I'm making optional, for contact number and for terms and condition. So let's just change it for username, password, confirm password, and here for contact number, please enter contact number, and here for terms and condition we can show here please accept terms. And now here for contact number we can use here the regular expression. So let's change it. I'm just using here regular expression. In regular expression we need to define a expression, please enter correct contact number. So contact number is optional, but when you will enter the value into the contact number, it will validate with the regular expression. So here we are going to validate a Indian mobile number. So in India, so the mobile number start either from 7, 8 or 9. So those digits I can mention over here. Let's say 7, 8 and 9. Then the total number of digits should be here 10. So I'm mentioning here 9 over here. So the first digit would be here 7, 8 or 9, and the last digit would be here, the last digit would total would be here 9. So 9 plus 1 would be 10 here. I do mention it at the rate. So this is the way how we have mentioned a regular expression as per the Indian mobile number. Same way we can define a regular expression for username also, for checking the username as a proper email ID. So let's say it should be here a proper email ID. I can mention here an regular expression. So it's a email ID. So what I'm doing here, I'm just checking for @ symbol here. So I'm just using dot plus. So then there should be @ then plus, and it should be here dot plus. So these are regular expression which I have mentioned to check the availability in any string for this @ character. And here we can mention here please enter correct email. So the email address we are using as a username. So these are regular expression. Same way for compare password, there is a compare attribute we can use here. Compare attribute, define the property name to whom you are willing to compare it. So I'm willing to compare it with the password, so that I have mentioned. Then mention the error message. So in the error message I'm mentioning here, let's say confirm password does not match. So this is the message I just mentioned over here. So I have defined for password, confirm password, contact number, everything is fine here if you will see. So this is the way how we can apply the validation using the data annotation attribute. Now let's verify how it is working. So you don't need to write an if statement here, you need to just check for the model state. And now all these data annotation attribute will work to validate the user input on the server side for all the properties as you have defined for required regular expression and any other attribute. So let's run the code and see how it is working. So go to the sign up page and click on the sign up button. It's coming at the action level. If you will see, now it is invalid. It is invalid because now user view model, these data annotation attribute are going to validate the user input for this posted value. So just do continue and you will get the error message now for each and every property. Let's say please enter name, username, password, confirm password. Contact number, for contact number we are not getting because contact number error message will show when you will enter the wrong contact number pattern. So right now it's not, that's why it's not showing. Let's enter the name here. I'm entering my name, let's say Shailendra. But if you will see, the error message not going to disappear because this is a validation on the server. Username I can mention here, let's say I'm just mentioning here Shailendra. This is my username, this is my name, let's say Shailendra Chauhan. When you will click on the sign up button, after submitting the data on the server side, it will hide the error message for name and username because everything is going to validate on the server side. So in server side, the data is validated on the server side and then it will hide the error messages. So you can see it is hiding the error message now. For username, it is saying now please enter correct email. So in this way, using the data annotation attribute, our server side validations are working fine. So this is the easiest way to use the data annotation attribute to validate the user input on the server side. Validation summary. So validation summary is used to show the summary of error messages corresponding to a HTML form. And the validation summary having a enum and that enum possible values are none. So we will mention the none. So none will not display any error. It will not display any error message. It is a model only. So model only will show only model label validation error messages. Then there is a all. So all show here model and property label validation errors. So let's see how the model summary these option works. Let's understand with the help of the example. So in our code we already using a model summary here, and by default if you will see, the value for the enumeration is here model only. It means it will show the error which are at model level only. And if you will see, we are not getting any error message as summary because all the error messages which we are having, these are at the property level. So what are the model property we are having? So these are at the model property level. So if you want to see all the error messages on this page, you need to mention here all, so that we get the error messages which are at property level and which are at model level. Now let's run the code and see how all the error messages we are getting in a summary. I go to the sign up page, click on the sign up link, and you can see I'm getting here all the error messages now in a summary because we have mentioned here all option. But if I will change here, let's say, and here if you will change the value, let's say model only. So what will happen? We will not see the error messages which are at property level. Let's verify it by navigating the page again. Click on the sign up button and you can see I'm not getting here any error message because it say model only now. So if you want to show the model only error, so we need to change the way how we are adding the error into the model state. So in the account controller, how we can change it? So let's do one thing. Let's add a else statement, and in the else statement I can add the error into the model state explicitly. And here in place of defining any key, because for the model properties it will not show the error, it will show the error when it is at model level. So string.empty I'm using here so that this error is added at the model level. So please correct the following errors. Please correct the following errors. So this is the error message I want to show here for the model summary. Now let's run the code and see how it is working. So this will be the error at model level. Go to the sign up page, click on the sign up button, and if you will see, I'm getting the error now. Please correct the following errors. So this is the way how we can show the model only error with the help of model summary. But if I will mention here none, so it will not show any error. None. Run the code again. Now it will not show the model label error and the property label error. Sign up. Click on the sign up button. You can see I'm not getting any error. So this is about the validation summary in ASP.NET Core, which you can use for showing the all errors, for showing the model label error, and if you are not willing to show, you can use none. And none is here helpful when you are willing to show your own custom error messages here, and you can show this div dynamically using the jQuery or like using any JS library. In that case, the none will help you. So this is all about the model validation summary you should know if you are willing to show the error messages. So let's change it to the all so that we get the error messages. Client side validation. So when you're talking about the client side validation, so these validation we always apply with the help of JavaScript or JavaScript library like jQuery validation library. So let's see how we can apply the client side validation in our ASP.NET Core forms. So it is easy here because we already defined here data annotation attribute. So these data annotation attribute always rendering as a data attribute. So in HTML5 there is a data attributes which we can use for adding any extra information at the input control level. And now here there is a jQuery validation library which works on the data attribute to validate the user input on the client side. So if you will see, there is a underscore validation script partial view. It is containing the jQuery validation library reference. You can see it's a jQuery.validate.js file, and there is a jQuery.validate.unobtrusive.js file. So these are the two JS library, like jQuery library, are helping us to validate the user input on the client side. And when you are adding these two library, so these two libraries having the dependency on the jQuery library. So jQuery library, if you will see, we already adding on this underscore layout page. So in this underscore layout page, if you will see here, we already adding the jQuery library in the development environment as well as in other environment. And here these two jQuery validation library are going to be rendered with the help of this render section. So this render section we already having on the sign up page. So this is the section name as a script. This section name I'm just going to uncomment. And what this section is doing, this section is rendering this underscore validation script partial view in asynchronous way. So it will render the JS file over here, and these JS files we are just going to add, or you can say inject on this underscore layout before closing the body tag, so that before the jQuery, so that before rendering the validation library, we are having the jQuery library also. So this is the way how the client side validation will work. So we don't need to write any extra code, just make sure you have added the reference of these two libraries. So here we are adding the reference of jQuery validation and jQuery validate.unobtrusive library with the help of partial view. So let's run the code and see how it is working on the client side also. Go to the sign up page, click on the sign up button. You can see I'm getting the error message. Now it's not going to the server side because it's now hiding the error message as soon as I'm typing. Pass the username, it is asking me to enter the correct email ID. So I'm entering here, it says Shailendra, let's say pro.shailendra@gmail.com. It's perfect. Password 1234, confirm password 1234, contact number if you will enter, then it will ask for the error message. Please enter correct contact number. So this is the way all the validation are working fine on the client side. And you might be thinking how these are working. So these are working because what are the data annotation attribute we are having, it's those are added here as a data HTML5 data attribute. So you can see for required there is a data val equal to true. So this attribute is used to make this input control entry as required. So jQuery validation library are reading these attributes to validate the user input on the client side. And what are the error messages we have mentioned in the user view model class? Let's say please enter name, please enter username. All the error messages are also available here, data dash well dash required. So this is the required error message, please enter name. Same way you can check here, data well regex, please enter correct email, and this is the regular expression. So same regular expression is also added into this HTML markup. Data well required error message is available. So jQuery validation library is reading all these data attribute to validate the user input on the client side. So that's why everything is working fine. So this is the beauty of the client side validation in our ASP.NET Core application. So just define here with the help of data annotation attribute, and same will be used on the client side also to validate the user input on the client side. So this is all about the client side validation in ASP.NET Core.